What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PlayStation VR show, the show that showcases the best the PlayStation VR has to offer. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the glue, Big Kev Dog, Kev Coelho. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, man. I'm doing
I
pretty
still
good.
don't like that wave.
What?
I know it's like your thing.
It's not my thing.
No, you decided a
tried
long
to
time
make it
ago.
a thing, yeah.
and it worked because you're doing it right now.
It's creepy. You know what I mean?
Very creepy.
We got Hunter Pence to do it once.
I know you did, and I remember that as
Yeah,
well. It was
that was
just
a big- that was
disturbing
big.
that it all happened the way it
Then
happened.
he had a grand slam. Coincidence?
Same day?
I don't think so.
Oh, right. You're right. He like jogged out there, right, and did that.
I don't know. You went further than I thought you would.
But do you remember, was it the same day? Was it that thing and he got the Grand Slam?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
It's a big moment for you and the weird thing. Anyways, everybody, if you know, this is the show where we talk about PlayStation VR games. Kev and I are doing it. This is season 2. All thanks to your support on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Of course, you can go over to patreon.com/kindafunnygames each and every week. Get the audio version of the PlayStation VR show. That's the site that made it happen. That's where we put it up. Otherwise, YouTube.com. Huh?
Audio version happening?
YouTube.com/kindafunnygames.
Cool.
This is the 4th episode. I say this at the front of every episode.
Well, it's also not on YouTube. The audio version is not on YouTube.com/.
Fair. I'm saying patreon.com/kindafunnygames.
I'm just saying we all make mistakes. I don't listen to your intros.
And I don't know the difference between Patreon either. Today we're talking about Moss, one of our favorite PlayStation VR games. Mine, I guess. Kevin hadn't. You hadn't played
this
it
game
yet.
fucking sucks.
Wow,
No, I'm kidding. I liked it.
Let's start with the back of the box. Of course, developed by PolyArc. Moss is an interesting road with us, Kevin. Of course, we were the first people to get to do Moss Let's Play. When it got announced at E3 2017, we had gotten a build from PolyArc, done
Didn't
interviews.
they come by?
No, they eventually did, but this time they just sent us the package file and we were able to go with it beforehand and have it ready for E3. It was an interesting one of my PR colleagues, friends I had known throughout the years of this, approaching me about Moss and being like, hey, I know you're into PlayStation. I don't know how you feel about PlayStation VR. There's this game coming, and it's from this new studio called PolyArc, and they have people from, former Bungie, former Sucker Punch, all these, big names that are working on this new VR thing. And I was like, okay, whatever. And to put it in context, I think 2017 at this point, if VR wasn't dead, but PlayStation VR didn't have the legs it had now, where I think we were still very much in the, hey, we're doing experiences. We're very much like doing the Batman Arkham stuff, and then it's going to be quiet for a long time. So to have this game leading up to E3 was this breath of fresh air of like, oh shit, like there is something that looks amazing from really talented people that looks like it's a real game, and not to insult games that came before it. Released February 27th, 2018. The synopsis from Wikipedia, if you somehow missed it. While in a library, the reader finds an old book. As he or she flips through the pages, the reader is transported to a fantasy land contained within the book. The reader meets Quill, a young mouse, and begins an adventure. The kingdom where Quill lives has been overthrown by Scarfog. A fire-breathing snake. After Quill's uncle is captured, the reader guides Quill on an adventure to defeat Scarfog and save her uncle. Right now, as of recording this, of course, we're recording this early, showing it to people live on patreon.com/kindafunnygames on July 31st, 2019. Metacritic for Moss sits at 85. I always like to read a blurb from a review. We're going to go over to Lou Contaldi at Dual Shockers.
Do you just pick it random, or do you read a couple reviews?
I read a couple reviews and go with the way I like. Wow. Lou, I think, encapsulates something very interesting here from Dual Shockers.
Go for it.
I'm not the only one who feels silly about spending so much on VR, given the somewhat slow integration the platform has received since launch. However, Moss has me believing that a second wave of VR titles are on the horizons. Games that are less bite-sized experiences, but ones that build off the lessons and tools those experiences introduced. Moss is one of those games and will not only reintroduce your VR headset to your entertainment center, but makes the argument that it should be there permanently. With fantastic world building and an endearing protagonist, Moss hits way above its weight, creating one of the few captivating must-play stories on VR. I think
Very
Lou
astute.
couldn't do a better job of encapsulating my point. Because if you remember, Moss 2017, we do it at E3. That's summer, right? We start work on the PlayStation VR show, not the season 1, in 2018 to launch in 2018. But we had already recorded, I think, by the time Moss dropped. That's why it wasn't part of PlayStation VR season 1. But it was one of those games for me that not reinvigorated, but did set the pace of like, no, PlayStation VR is not going away, and there's gonna be a lot of cool shit, which then led to the PlayStation VR show or season 1 that was super hot, that was Sprint Vector, that was different experiences we were out there doing. Surgeon Simulator, right? What? That video you trying to do?
No, like you being like Miller Vector or what was it? The
Sprint
kid
Vector?
that you were gonna have with this
Oh
game.
yeah. Oh man, that's a deep cut. That's a deep cut from PlayStation VR show. But here we are with season 2. PlayStation VR still going strong and doing amazing stuff. I thought it was only time only right to give Moss its due time in the sun, right? So Kevin, I'm the most interested for you because I played Moss at launch. I was very into it. You just played Moss for this show. What did you think? Why is it a great PlayStation VR game?
I actually beat it.
Oh, wow!
Yeah.
They're at a first. Wow, Kev.
Why is he moving around so much? What's he doing?
Because he wasn't ready. That was the level of shock he had.
he
You
was
beating a
turning
PlayStation.
Now
VR.
you understand when people ask you to do something when you're back here and you're.
I have it
back,
on.
and
I have it on
And then
now.
you like.
Yeah, but then they hear the
Anyways,
trolley.
Moss. God damn. You
Yeah.
put this shit on and you're in this little world and it's it doesn't like the graphics. Like I can't wait till we get like the 4K like bump where
Of course.
everything looks.
Yeah. No more screen
awesome.
door effect.
Yeah. But it's still. This world is beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's so many moments where I was playing and I would just look around and like look up to the sky or look at the castle and just be like, wow, this is fantastic. Also, really, really fun like gameplay design, like having the little scrolls and getting a little dust. Was it dust you're collecting?
Yeah.
It was so much fun and it had me like redoing areas and examining everything closely. I didn't get them all by the end, but I'm like 4 away of the scrolls.
Yeah.
So I'm so close.
Easy
and
to
it's
go
like,
back.
I want to go back.
Yeah.
I know where they are.
Just couldn't figure out the puzzle.
Yeah. No, I
Hurrying.
I just didn't find it.
You just know what level it's in.
Yeah. Oh,
Gotcha.
yeah. At the end, it tells you the levels.
Yeah, if you didn't play Moss yet, ladies and gentlemen, first off, shame on you. Nah, just kidding. But in general, the way it works is the way I described it on an old Gamescast with Xavier Woods, is that you're inside a diorama or basically a level circling around you, and you're the ghost, you're
world.
the reader, right? You have ghostly powers where you can move some stuff through telekinesis. You go and select it. You're just using the DualShock. Go down there, select it, use shoulder buttons to grab. However, then there's Quill, the mouse character that you probably know from
Adorable.
It's so
When
sweet,
the first
so
time
cute.
she's like, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna give you a high five.
Yeah.
We're gonna get. And then you give her a high five, little trophy pings, and you're like, oh, right.
So on top of being the ghost or whatever you want to call it in the environment, the reader, but the ghost, you also control Quill with the traditional third-person controls you'd expect for an action game. So you are moving her around while you move yourself around. You're varying your own perspective. Last night I jumped in. I was like, I love Moss already. I've already beaten Moss. But there was the DLC that had kind of shadow dropped since I last played. And so I jumped. I was like, I'm just going to...
integrates very nicely into the game.
Yeah, you didn't even know, right?
Didn't even realize.
Very confusing for me, where I was like, fucking hell, where is it? What is a new chapter? And then I had to Google it, and it's like, oh, it's just interwoven into the story you already have. That's
Every time the
fascinating.
Toad was like, oh, he'll probably not come, or she'll probably not come back.
Yeah.
It was like, I'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon, you
I'll see
fucking
you
toad.
soon.
I'll get you soon. But my plan was to jump in that, do the DLC, and then bounce out, right? And just get my legs again. And of course, I got back in and played for like another 2.5 hours of not just, I started on the DLC stuff, and then I was like, how short of the platinum am I? And I went, I'm like, I'm not sure. So then I'm like looking up stuff. I'm going back and do it. I'm doing the puzzles.
I feel like it might be an easy platinum because I felt like a lot of things were pinging.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, I hope this isn't one of those games where you just beat and you get a platinum.
Yeah, no, there's the one thing that I was looking at last night because it was like, midnight. And I was like, do I want to try to do this? There was another one of it's, save your or beat the bad guy or whatever without dying. And I was like, oh, okay, what level do I have to play? And then it was like, oh no, I looked it up. It's beat the entire game without dying.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, okay, I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's so many like stupid jumps I didn't make and fell into the water. I'm like, do I really want to count that? I need to look it up. I'm sure there's actually, hey, this counts, this doesn't. If you're about to die, hit this. I mean, I'm sure there's cheats to get around it and not actually have to do it straight through. But it's something I would like to double back for because, again, I was enraptured again last night. And I didn't expect that. I expected to go in, I remember this, I remember that, and instead it was like, no, let's do another trophy, let's do this thing. Do I want to play through it right now and try to go through and beat the whole thing? But like, damn, it's such a good game, right?
It's a fun game. Another thing is the story and world that it builds is really cool. Where it's there's a moment where you're like past I think you're walking in a desert and there's like a bunch of dead skeletons around you with or like statues of like human-looking people, and it's definitely like a human-looking castle.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I want to know what's going on in this world.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, of not knowing what we were getting into when you start Moss. First off, I want to give a shout out to just overall, if you follow Greg Miller for a long time, if you ever read my Unfinished Swan review back at IGN, what I was, I know you haven't, but what I talked about there was like, it felt like being like wrapped in a blanket with a cup of cocoa, like watching one of your favorite kids movie when you were a kid home from sick, or like when it was like cold outside. This gives me that exact same vibe of, first off, literally opening the storybook in the library, right? Turning the pages while the narrator tells you what's happening. The narrator doing all the different voices for all the different characters, right? As if it's your mom telling you a story. And then jumping into that world and being lost in it. It's what you said, where sure, I was adjusting the headset trying to get that perfect viewpoint, and you find it, and it's pretty and it's beautiful. It could be sharper, it could be this, that, the other.
Yeah, but it, like, the style
is nailed, right?
Gorgeous, yeah.
And the way Quill is animated. Like I talked about it back in the Gamescast, and then to talk about it here, like the animations Quill is doing that I'm making her do look like it's a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like the way she's moving and the way they literally, since this is such a small experience, they were able to handcraft, like when you get to this and you need to do that, give a custom animation of her getting around. Like that goes so far into making that game feel more. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Come on, you got the trophies, got all that.
She likes it.
I had to do the thing where I had to annoy her too. I had to sneak up on her.
Was
which
that
I
an
hadn't
option?
done.
How do you sneak up on her?
You turn her back to the screen and you come in really close with your headset, and then she turns around. She's like, oh, she like does this point at you, and you're like, yeah, I love you, Quill.
Those animations are so fantastic.
They do such a great job, right? Of like,
sometimes you're having a problem with the puzzle, and she's like,
yeah, she'll point, yeah, exactly.
and it's like, dude, I know it's just hard.
I'm working on it. You don't understand what it's like over here.
Chill out.
Yeah, like I think they do such a good job of what you're talking about, world building and making you care about this, and then to get you in it and have the narrator talk the way you do, like, or she does, like, okay, cool, I'm getting into a story. But to even get out of your little mouse village, right, and get out there, and the first time you walk in, there's that giant axe there. You're like, what the hell is this? And you walk out, and sure enough, like, there's a giant deer walking because you're so tiny, and then it is a sword, and it is a helmet, and you're walking, and it's like, oh my God, we're humans here, and something has happened. I'm in some kind of battlefield, right? And yeah, there's a big castle there, but then there's the small castle that
it's like medieval time, but like there's also crazy robots.
And stuff, right?
What's happening?
Alternate universe, Captain.
You think so?
Yeah, it's definitely not our universe. We don't have mice like this. Our mice are all stupid.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
You know.
But then how do we go backwards? And then, you know, they're not guns on the ground, they're swords.
Oh, I'm sure they're just in a place where people like LARPing.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Did you think about that?
I didn't even think about
I mean,
it.
if there's a castle, you gotta imagine the people locals there are like, let's LARP. There's a fucking castle.
Exactly. And churn butter. We usually like to start with why is it a great PSVR game, right? Another thing about it, I did really love the way they use scale and perspective, where I think for the majority of the time you can just sit there on your couch and play through and get to where you need to be. But if you want all the scrolls, if you want to, yeah, exactly, you're getting down, you're getting low, you're coming in, like even I always talk about a good trophy list, teaching you something or making you play differently. Putting a trophy on there that is scare her, and you look it up, you're like, oh right, lean my head in, because you can. And like the frog has a trophy for a staring contest too, where it's like, oh, get really close to these things, move your head around, not only up and down, which is how I kept doing, where I'd be like, what am I doing, and like up and like, oh okay, and then sit up here and play like this.
One of the things I would do is I would back up a lot, and then reposition, hold down options, and then you'd be halfway in it. Well, I'd slide back, be halfway in it, and then stand up, adjust, look around everywhere.
Yeah.
Really
and
cool.
that's what, when I was trying to describe the game on the Gamescast, and I keep referencing the Gamescast because I listened to it beforehand, right?
I never watched it.
Oh, you're such a monster. I think you're on the controls for this episode. It was with Austin Creed. You love him.
Austin
Creed.
Xavier?
Yeah. WWE doesn't own him all the time, all right? Anyways, it's the idea that sure, there's third-person action to it. There's, fighting some enemies, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But really, it's a puzzle game. And it's not a puzzle game in I'm going to be a punishing, how do you get out of this puzzle game? But it is very much, you walk into a new environment, and cool. How are you going to get from point A to point B? How are you going to interact with this? How are you how are you going to move the statues to hold down these things to get that up there? How are you going to get around the giant Eye of Sauron robot and move the walls up and down and spin it the right way?
So many damn
I know,
times.
right? It's annoying. And that's when it's like, oh, beat the game without dying. I'm like, there's a lot of trial and error I do here. I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want to do.
I think it's doable, though.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But it's also being rusty about it. Like I should have done that trophy right after I beat it the first time. Not now, where last night I jumped in. I remember combat being so simple and jumping into later levels and running into some people. I'm like, wait, what do I do again? I keep dying here. What am I fucking up?
The little bomb guys were kind of a challenge. They became overwhelming when they came out in like mass numbers.
Right.
Because like something about charging up the her little sword.
Yeah.
Which you didn't have the first time around, is that right?
So not to my knowledge, because you're talking about what you got from the toad and then brought it back out,
so.
right?
I think so.
Okay.
Was a little sword that you charge up with her. Like, no, you must have had it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm rusty on that
might
part.
have been
I didn't do all the DLC either, so like I did one toad room and then I got lost in the trophies. Yeah. Oh, that's really what makes
cool
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, find out a little bit more about that little fairy thing that's been helping you.
Okay.
Like I know his name.
Oh wow.
Or her name.
Toad.
No.
The toad tells you that the name of the fairy is Toad.
No, it turns into a person eventually.
Oh my God, Tinkerbell. Wow. This is a whole dimension of the game here. But it was the idea of what I said when I talked about this originally, and I stand by. I guess now we're starting to get, why isn't it a great video game? I feel like at the end, they're hitting on all cylinders, but it took a while to get there. And it's a short game, but I think the puzzles are more complex and interesting. I think the combat is more. I described it as, as it's a great one of rub your tummy and pat your head kind of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Where you're charging things and attacking things, but you're also moving quill, so you're trying to balance all these different things.
So are you saying it takes too long to get to that more?
I felt
dynamic?
For the longest time when I played through originally, it was like not brain dead combat, but pretty like, okay, whatever. This isn't what it's all about.
I like that gradual, like, because eventually it gets to the point where it's like, oh, this is going to take me a couple tries to get through because I got to blow these guys up. I got to, make sure these pinchers aren't shooting at me.
Sure.
So I actually liked how it was slow and like I got very comfortable with the controls by the time I got to the point where things got harder.
Sure.
Now, one thing that I did have an issue with is...
Yeah, because now I wonder why it isn't a great video game.
Yeah. I just felt like using the controller was a bad decision in the sense
you want to
that,
move once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the controller has a light that's like this big.
Yeah.
And if you move that up, it no longer is reading. Or, if you move that away from the camera, it's no longer registering.
Yeah, I know.
And that happened to me so many times where I was doing something, moving, and it took me a while to like actually think about what was happening. And even once I knew what was happening and I was trying to purposely angle it the right way, it kept kind of like disconnecting, and it just didn't seem like it had that down.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I last night ran into that. We're sitting on the couch, totally fine because it's angled and shooting one direction. But yeah, when I would do the stand up and like, oh, I'm gonna move it this way, moving quill, sure, you don't need that. But when it was hold a block, move quill, when I was trying to stand up and move the spinning thing around the Eye of Sauron and lift the walls, right, I was having that problem of like, it's just, god damn it, all right, hold on, let's sit down, angle it perfectly, do the thing.
And I feel like that really takes me out of the moment.
Sure. Yeah, frustration.
Where the move ones, because they have a bigger light, I imagine it'll be much easier to keep that.
The problem is though, how do you move quill then? Like, there's not a stick on the move one, right? Like, that's where you get into the trouble. I hear you and I understand, but yeah, like that.
They have the move nunchuck one.
Yeah, I wish that was a bigger thing.
No.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't at all.
Could have used the gun one too.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Just play the game with the gun. The attachment out there. Yeah, and do it.
Another issue that I had, I just kind of didn't feel like the controls were tight enough. Where a lot of times I would go to jump somewhere and I'd be like, oh, that has to be fully down for you to jump onto it. It's like, why?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
And she can grab onto certain things, but not everything.
Yeah. And just a bunch of times where it's just like, nah, she should have made that jump. Like, it makes sense everywhere else.
Same thing I found out last night, jumping back in of like, all right, cool. And then like, oh, right, the platforming isn't finicky, but it's very it's very precise in terms of what you can do. You can't do everything. You can't. And so I was doing the same thing of like...
A little more Assassin's Creed in it,
Yeah, exactly. Lifting, like, it might even been exactly what you're talking about. Lifting all three of the pillars, right? But then pushing some of them down. And then like, okay, cool. And then it's like... fuck, she's on the ground again. All right, climb back up, do the thing, bring it back down, bring it back up. Blah, blah, blah.
Also, I would have liked if some of the more intricate like areas where you had to do this puzzle were just like, I wish that like they had like kind of like checkpoints, but like when you get to a certain like halfway through it, you can push something over and now make it easier to access that part.
Sure.
And I know that's silly little nitpicking stuff, but I found myself, especially because I was looking for so many of these little scrolls, where I'd be like, oh, I think there's a scroll there. But it's like now I have to restart this whole like chamber sequence to move everything so that I can access that area.
I think it's funny in a way, but I think a lot of the things we're talking about are things I probably didn't bring up as much in the original run or in the original review, because I think we've come so far already with PlayStation VR platforming, playing like Astrobot, right? Of like how that did not suffer from the platform is there, right?
I wish they would let us go back though. It
Exactly, right?
evolves always,
yeah,
right?
Exactly,
yeah,
right? And so there's these different little things of, I think, that you see how this game, what it was is, but what it was in terms of like, hey, this is what PlayStation VR can do, but even now already having like low quality of life issues that you wouldn't expect out of a thing. And that's the thing is what I said in the Gamescast. They have to be doing another one, and I have to imagine that it's going to be, I described it on the Gamescast back in the day as this being their Uncharted moment, and I'm excited for their Uncharted 2. And the way they like, this is great and it's awesome. There's little things you can look at and be like, oh, well, not this, not that. But when they get it all together, I think towards the end, you see them be like, oh shit, this is what the game's gonna be like going forward.
Oh.
Be super exciting.
Trying to think if there was anything else that was. Every once in a while, the camera wouldn't track my body and it would like jump me. And like I don't know what's going on there, but like that was just something that was a reoccurring
Here's
issue.
something. How do you have your PlayStation Eye anchored? Is it just resting on top of your TV? Is it screwed to the wall?
No. It's chilling right underneath the TV on my bookshelf.
I put mine on the top of the TV, and it's stable. But when I put on the VR or PlayStation VR and I play anything, and I'll be standing there like watching a cutscene or listening to something, I'll notice a subtle sway, and I can't. I was like, is my TV constantly rocking? No. It's just, is it my TV rocking? Would it help if I put it on the entertainment center lip? Would it be better if I put it on the wall like so many people do?
It hurt to put it on the entertainment thing, and then you'd have it for sure be stable. I noticed when Paula would cross, it would like move me just a tiny bit.
Sure.
But I really like the PSVR because it's got the like you can fully turn around.
Oh, sure.
And it still tracks you.
Yeah,
it's like being able to like look, especially in this little world that they have, the surroundings and like really examine everything. So cool.
And that's why, again, I know I'm a broken record on this show, but like, God, putting it on the PSVR, I'm like, make a second one that's wireless already. Last night I was like on it and like my headphone cable was connected. I'm like, and I like disconnected at one point. I was like, I hate this. Life is so rough. Do you want to talk to the audience?
Yeah,
they want to talk to you. A whole bunch of different people wrote in with their reviews, including DJ Kento. DJ Kento wrote in to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, just like you can, to be part of this show, and said, I really liked the time I spent with Moss. I think VR 3D platforming is a genre that shows a lot of promise. I couldn't help but think of games I'd like to see with this, and the one that came to mind first was Lego. It's the scale of it. Being a big thing and helping a little mouse on their adventure, I thought, oh, I could be playing this with Lego superheroes. There are other games that are in this format that are more traditional platformers, like Lucky's Tale and the Adventure Time game, both of which are neat. Wonder what other games or franchises you would like to see take on this VR platformer style. Of course, it's interesting because we're doing Moss now. Last week, of course, was Trover Saves the Universe. Week before that was Astrobot and Trover flip-flop them.
Truth before that.
Right. Well, that doesn't help at all with what I'm talking about.
I know.
Anyways, we've done like all these platformers in a row. When you're playing them, are you thinking of what could another universe you'd like to see? The Lego one's a great idea.
The Lego one's a great idea.
Yeah.
That seems really fun. But at the same time, I'd be curious to see how they could implement that. But like, I think that they could do a good job. But another world where I want to see... Moss is such a good one. God, I just want more Moss.
I do, me too. And that's the thing is like the way they end it, right? Of like this is the end of the chapter. Like it really, I feel setting it up for there to be another book on that shelf.
They announced more. You know?
I know, right, Polyarch? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You have to be doing something up there.
Wait. One more negative. We can just go back to that.
Sure.
Is the way it ends. Like when you go through the end of it and you close it.
Yeah, and then it just sits there. Yeah.
And it's like, all right,
cool. I guess I could have used anything saying now the adventure's yours. Or the book rotates back down, right?
Something.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
You know what'd be good?
What's that?
Like a Toy Story game.
Sure. Okay.
You play Andy or whatever new Andy is.
I won't lie to you. I have a friend now who works at Disney. We could try to make that happen.
He sucks.
Kabobs writes in to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, Moss was a really unique game that left me with shock at the end. Although I haven't had time to jump into the DLC expansion, so my impressions are just the launch content. Overall, I think the game is great. The narrator really captures the various different roles she needs to perform, and the animations are incredible. There's so much fluidity in Quill's movements that she was a joy to just move around, something I've only felt with Jak and Daxter and the Spyro remix. As a platforming fan, though, I'm not sure why Breakable's in the main collectible. Well, I'm not sure why Breakables are the main... Oh, I'm not sure why Breakables are the main collectible, since the game has so many of them. I'm putting off 100%ing the game until when I intentionally smash everything, only to find I actually missed half of it. Either make them more obvious, or make the collectibles like other platformers, please.
I felt like it was, to me, it was clear that like smashing things made you something, and
Got
then
you to
later you
Stardust or
feel
whatever.
like or you see that there's a jar getting full.
Yeah.
So... I thought it was fun to smash stuff.
Me too, yeah. I
thought
didn't
the
have that struggle.
animation, like watching her little animation every time, was enjoyable. And there's something about it, like destroying everything in the room, so there's nothing left. That just makes me feel like.
Did you end the game having collected all the dust?
I don't think I collected all of it, but it was one of those things where I had like 95% of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't try. I mean, I did obviously. I smashed everything, but I ended the game getting it all. And I was like, oh shit! And I was only short like I think. I had picked up 3 scrolls last night, so I had everything else when I beat the launch game.
I don't think that the DLC would be like I don't know if it works as DLC as much as like add-on content for first time playing. So
Sure.
I'm surprised a little bit that was the DLC.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just seems like did you just have to go back to those levels and find...
Yeah, the idea is that you'd restart the level and then look for the green door, yeah.
Huh.
And like again, when you've beaten, you've seen it now, I assume.
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
even starting, it showed like green 0 of 1, showing me that the door was in this chapter. I need to play this chapter and find it. But back to kebabs. Combat was cool, although the dodge mechanic took me a while to get used to.
There's a dodge mechanic?
I think it might have made more sense to put that on the right stick instead of the square button. I really enjoyed the puzzles. Manipulating the environment is what justifies this game being in VR for me. Although I do wish the level design put Quill closer to me from time to time like Astrobot did. Of course, you can get your face close to it. Kebabs, get right in there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
You
it.
just gotta get up.
Speaking of which, I thought the level design was otherwise really good. The game does a great job of getting around the, quote, people get sick when they aren't in control of the camera problem by breaking up the levels into specific dioramas and rooting your character to the ground. You don't even really notice. One of my favorite little features was that if you click the left stick on the pause menu, the menu goes away and you can explore the environment frozen in time. Which I never did. I never knew that.
Oh, I just thought that was a pause. Wait, because if you click the right stick, that pauses as well, and right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think you get
I hit options or whatever, and then it bring up the menu, and then I always saw the hide, and I was like, I never hit it. Kebab's teaching me right here. You know what I mean? The big shock for me, however, was how incredibly short the game is. Maybe I've been spoiled by Astrobot's length, but I was not prepared to finish the quote-unquote final area of the game, only to be met with the end of the chapter and realize that the game is, and there's no other way to put it, totally unfinished. I realize that the game is getting free DLC to continue the story, but after the rave reviews, I'm surprised I never heard about this aspect of the game. It really soured my impressions of it, and I kind of wish I waited until it was actually finished. I still think Moss is an incredibly well-crafted and polished title, but the 4-hour runtime has put a significant dent in how I feel about the launch version of the game. Again, an interesting takeaway a year removed from it, right? From more than a year removed. Because, yeah, I remember in my review saying it was short, but there was no Astrobot to compare it to, right? It was one of those things of this was still an actual game, right? And I do think that even though, yeah, they're like, this is the end of this chapter, I think that's the end of this Moss thing. I don't think it was unfinished. And obviously, maybe you don't even know. Well, I don't even know if you went back, right?
Also, yeah, the DLC, it doesn't, I don't think it continues
the
story.
Yeah, Kebabs. The DLC is just some toad rooms that are added to the game. Yeah, they're not like...
They're fun rooms, though.
Fun rooms, yeah. But it's not like, you're getting a new chapter, a new book, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Colin Davis writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, the thing I enjoyed most about Moss was how connected I felt to Quill. Maybe it's the immersion of virtual reality, but I really felt like this was a journey we were in together. It was endearing, emotional, and wholesome. I can't say enough good things about it, and it's for sure my favorite VR game that doesn't involve hitting blocks with lightsabers. Beat Saber, of course.
What about Tetris? What about moving those blocks around, you know?
That's another good game.
Yeah.
No Beat Saber, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I agree. I think that putting yourself in that VR world, like them being able to design these moments where Moss looks at you and, you get that little...
her name's Quill.
Whatever, you're right, Quill, sorry. Where's Moss come from then?
All around you, it's Moss.
Really? Is that it?
I have no idea.
Like when Quill looks at you and gives you those little nods, or it is something that makes it more real and like you feel connected faster, even in a shorter story where you're like, oh, it's awesome.
That's the thing too, is like for me personally, and this is obviously, Moss, we got a code for it. I didn't put my own money into it. I would have bought this game. I would have been happy spending it.
But you didn't.
Of course. So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. For me, I would want the quality over quantity. Sure, it's short, but again, those animations, the music, the narration, the level design, like, I'd rather it be this great experience, let alone an experience that I came back to a year later, and I was still like, this is fucking great. I want to play this again. I do want to get the platinum. I want to hang out. Kevin.
What's up?
On the PlayStation VR show, we have some questions, too. Are you ready for those?
No. What was it?
Too bad. Steven writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, Moss was one of the first VR games I seen which wasn't in first person. I've only played the demo, so maybe you can elaborate for me. What does VR bring to this type of game that wouldn't be achieved in a non-VR game? How do you answer that question, Kev Dog?
I think that, I've never played this in non-VR.
You can't.
Oh, it's a VR only.
Correct.
Oh. Well, it's that full immersion then. Like being able to look around at this like beautifully made world and like take it all in. Like it's weird, but like you put it on and you're in this awesome,
forget. That's the most powerful thing about VR is when you put it on, you have a great VR game. It's what I find myself struggling with when I get so excited to watch The Boys, right? Me and Jen are going to finish The Boys. All right, great. We start the episode. And 10 minutes in, what do? I turn my phone over. Not because I don't like The Boys, and not because I'm bored, but what's going on my phone? I see it buzzing.
A lot going on in The Boys. You gotta pay attention.
Blah, blah. Yeah, and it's like I'm starting to cheapen that experience. I gotta put it down. VR, when it's great and you put it on and there's nothing to distract you. There's no, you know what I mean? Like it's not pulling you out. You can't multitask in that. You can only focus. Yeah. And so when they give you a game like this that I think here is a story. We're telling you a story and you're playing through the story and it's short and you can do it almost, and I think it really helps. To the point of what does this do that another VR game couldn't do, I think the immersion to the extent of being able to explore physically the environment, where it is the stand up, look around, like when you're running from the snake, right? And it is like, shit, what am I gonna do? How am I getting down here and like looking for collectibles? Like that's a fun, awesome experience you don't get when you're just like moving a camera around. Like, and this is the same thing. Barrett and us had a disconnect with Trover, right?
Right.
We're playing Trover with it. It wasn't nearly as fun as playing it as being in the game. You were trying to say something?
I
lost it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say there was when you're fighting the snake. There, like before it starts, you enter an area that doesn't trigger until you pass a certain thing.
Yeah.
And there's a bow and arrow, little crossbow.
Okay.
Just chilling there. I remember when I first got there, I was like, oh, and then I pulled it, and once I got to that area, it was perfect. Where it was like, oh, cool, hit the thing, and I was like, oh, all right, cool.
Nice job. Cool.
Yeah.
D. Smitty writes into patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, says, Moss is my favorite PSVR game to date. Are there any other titles that are similar you'd recommend? Also, did anyone in the office get their hands on a Quill figurine? If so, can I have it? Thanks for all you do. Love your content, D. Smitty.
We had a bunch of Quill figurines.
We had a ton of those, D. Smitty. Where were you when they came out? We gave them all away. Joey shipped them out. Cool Greg shipped them out. Yeah, we had them all. I think I did, and I had one on my desk that I believe I gave away. That eventually somebody came by and was like, "That's awesome."
Was it big deals or what's up?
Yeah, they didn't make money. They did not make many of them. And you couldn't buy them anywhere. It was like they hit them around PAXs and stuff and all that jazz coming up. Of course, the PlayStation VR show is here to recommend games similar to this. I think if you're just joining us, similar, but not the same at all, but similar. Astrobot, you know what I mean? It's more of a platformer than a puzzler, I think, in that regard. That'd be the one that springs to mind, especially with having another cute protagonist, somebody you connect with, somebody you actually have a connection with.
Have those little interactions with.
Yeah, they go a really long way, I think.
Yeah.
Cam Douglas writes in to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames and says, this game screams Redwall, so I immediately love it. But how do you guys feel the camera view of the game affects gameplay? I feel like most VR games try to leverage first-person views and was curious how this camera system impacted the experience.
The only thing that affected me with this was I felt like there was a little bit too many like loading screens. Like when you had to go to the next area, but it was still kind of like one area.
Yeah.
And you're like, now I'm gonna just go like there was a couple areas that were just like just walk this small path.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, all right, now we're gonna wait for another loading screen. And that was, other than that, I thought it was so smooth. Yeah,
it goes back to, the camera experience and not being first person. It's a third person thing, but you're also playing the ghost character of the reader. I did the same thing that happened to me in Trover, where I'd be so focused on whatever puzzle I was working on and Moss would start getting attacked and I didn't see her, right? Like it would be out of my peripheral vision that you had to be like, oh shit, like trying to balance it all around. Which again, I think is what makes this a VR game. It's like giving you not too much to do, but so much to do that you actually have to be watching multiple things.
And it is tricky to like, change that in your mind where it's like, no, you have to look back this way because you have enemies coming here that are going to be shooting.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to move her wherever it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And final question goes to Apology. Isn't Quill one of the best new characters to emerge from this generation?
I like Moss better.
You like the name Moss better?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Totally,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think that speaks to what they did here in terms of making a character people care about in like animations and setting and everything that's going on with it. Of like, yep, I spent 4 hours with Quill, right? And even though I turned on last night and I was like right back with an old friend, and I've also thought about this character in this game a million times since then, and how I've played how many games that are way longer than that, and I don't ever think about them again in a positive way. I'm like, yeah. They crushed it here.
They did such a good job making her look like badass at the end.
Yeah.
Like, throughout the story where it was like, first starts, oh, she's a little kid that like the uncle's trying to protect.
Yeah.
And at the end, her jumping and stabbing the snake in the eyeball. Pretty cool.
Hell yeah. And even like where they play with your heartstrings, right? Of like when you finally make it to that one village that has like the eye of Sauron up at the top, and it's got like those like basically electrical cords going through it, and the narrator's like, it weighs on Quill because this would have been her home if life didn't go this way. She'd be living here. Like, oh my god, like that's fucking powerful. You didn't even think about it. Moss is a great game.
Absolutely.
Everybody, what do you think? Moss over on youtube.com/kindafunnygames. Remember, if you like the MP3 version of these shows better, you go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You can get them there. It doesn't cost you anything. They're put up for free. Kevin, episode 5 of the PlayStation VR show is a pitch you had for me. You wanted to do different games.
Yeah.
We each do a different game.
I do, because we have different interests.
We do.
I really like them racing games, and also was something else I was pitching. Damn, I forgot. But I really wanted to do a racing game.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get that. I might have to buy it. What game you want to do?
I don't know yet. So what racing game are you going to do?
Oh, that's what it was. Ace Combat was the other game that I wanted to play
yeah.
in my little like setup.
Get your motor running. Head out on the open road. I'm just seeing the Top Gun. Highway to... Yeah, I don't know. I haven't picked one. I got to pick one.
There's a Cyberpilot for Wolfenstein.
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking of doing,
but I
too.
heard that's not great.
No?
Yeah, David from Upload VR was like... When he put the list of games of... Somebody put up the Wolfenstein ranking order, and he's like, let me correct it for you. And then he put like 7 blank spots, and then he put Cyberpilot in there. Ooh, goo. See, I could take a shot at it, but again, that's against what the show is. The best that PlayStation VR has to offer.
Yeah.
So I need to make a pick.
So how does that work for me? Where like I
thought you already played the Ace Combat.
No, I haven't.
Oh.
No. See?
Well, I've heard it's really good, so you're fine.
Okay, excellent.
And you like flying.
I can't imagine like a flying game.
Yeah, it's just Garbo. It just doesn't work at all. I'll figure it out. We'll put it up. You can have your chance. Or maybe it'll just be a mystery, and you'll figure it out when you get there together. But ladies and gentlemen, if you like the PlayStation VR show, thank you so much for the support. Consider going to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. You can back us there. Help shows like this happen. Of course, you can submit your questions, comments, reviews, all that stuff over there too. Not for this show. Well, if you're watching live for this show. If you're watching on YouTube, it's
too late.
done. It's
done.
over. Yeah,
maybe we'll do it again someday.
Exactly. Maybe we'll do it again.
See.
You'll see. Maybe you support on Patreon. If you're on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, please subscribe. If you're on roosterteeth.com, find a Bernie video and write, "Hey Bernie, Greg Miller says you stink." Until next time. It's been our pleasure to serve you.